Okay, I'm back again with another top 10 list. This time, I am going top 10 off-ball linebackers. So this means not an edge rusher. If you're someone who, primarily rushes the passer, you're not included. The other kind of linebackers. Why do we still call those people the same name? Come on, football. Let's figure this out. Let's call them edge rushers and linebackers. But anyways, off-ball linebackers, top 10. Let's get into the list. Number 10, it is Dante Hightower, not Donta Hightower. I made that mistake in one of my earlier videos, calling him Donta Hightower, like it's spelled. No, Dante Hightower. He didn't play last year. He was an opt-out for COVID, so that's interesting to me. I do wonder, where's his, how good is he right now? He didn't play football last year. That's going to be an interesting storyline of all of these opt-outs. Will it take him a bit to get back into game shape? We saw that with Gronkowski, right? Who didn't opt out, but he missed the season due to retirement and then said he wanted to play again. And it did take him a bit to get going. I wonder if that'll be the case of Hightower, but when he's playing, he's very good. And he is someone who can do every aspect of being a linebacker well. I consider him an off-ball linebacker, but he can line up and rush the passer. He doesn't do it as often, so I still think he fits the off-ball role. He's not maybe the fastest linebacker. That's the one thing you could say, and he's not getting any younger either, but he's a very good linebacker and belongs on this list. Number 9, I am going with Matt Milano, who is a really good coverage linebacker. Now, he's interesting. I think that it's hard to really define exactly where to put some of these guys, because what do you value? Do you value run defense? Do you value guys who can do it all? Do you value someone like Milano who can really do one thing particularly well, and that's cover? He isn't the best at run defense. He's not, but what he makes up for it with his coverage ability. And I do think that when he missed a few games, you saw that defense really struggle. So he does maybe mean more than what meets the eye. So especially again in the coverage games. So that's why I have him at number 9, even if he's not the most complete. I do have him here. I also think that, you could argue Hightower ahead of him either way, but I also think that there is a bit of a jump up from 9 to 8. But still, I mean, he's good. I'm not bashing the guy. He's made my top 10 list. I think that, again, a good coverage linebacker is hard to find. Well, Buffalo doesn't have to find one because they have Matt Milano. Number 8, Deion Jones. Big fan of Deion Jones. He's a guy who, like I said, it's a big jump up where I would say he can cover just as well as Milano can. But what he can do is he also is really good at stopping the run. So he kind of has both of those things. He's definitely a guy who is more known for his coverage ability. Like, his interception against the Vikings last year was just like a perfect, just reads the play, goes over, makes the play. He can do it especially well in zone coverage. And I thought that once Raheem Morris took over, he really thrived. Jones did. So I think Jones is really good. And I'm a big fan of his, and he belongs on this list. Number 7, Roquan Smith. It just tells you how many good linebackers there are in the league that Deion Jones and Roquan Smith can't even make the top 6. Neither one of them can. That's insane to me. And I think it makes sense. I mean, he's another really good coverage linebacker who can stop the run. I think he's slightly better. He fits the Deion Jones role. I just think, in my opinion, he is slightly better. So that's why I have him, one spot ahead. But I mean, those guys are both awesome. Number 6, Darius Leonard. And again, another guy I can't believe isn't in the top 5 because of how good he is. He's another coverage guy who, it's not that I don't value coverage. I actually, I value that a lot. But the main reason is just that, I mean, there's not really too many negative things to say about him. His coverage ability is awesome. He had 5 interceptions in 2019, although 0 in 2020. I do feel like when he had that rookie season, we kind of all thought he was going to just be like, the next stud linebacker, best in the league kind of guy. That's what we all thought. And, he's been really good. I'm not sure if I would say he's been that good. In fact, that might have been his best season, was that first season. So he's still a very good player. I'm not going to bash him at all, but you're splitting hairs when you're talking about linebackers in the NFL these days. Cause I'm not saying there's like a ton of great linebackers. It's not like every team has a great linebacker, but I really feel like there's like 8 just like dominant elite level linebackers. And you kind of have to split hairs between some of them. Number 5, I am going with Demario Davis, who's such an interesting story. I feel like such an interesting situation. You could argue that Davis, shouldn't be this high because of, all those years when he played for like the Jets and played for Cleveland that one year, and he wasn't the best. He was fine, but he wasn't like a star or anything. But once he gets to New Orleans, he's just been a complete monster. He's been incredible. He can cover with, maybe not just as well as guys like Leonard and Smith and Jones, but up there. And he, I think, stops the run better than any of those guys. So that's why I have him at 5, is he's just a bit more complete than those other 3. And again, it's only been for like 3 seasons now, but it's been awesome. And he absolutely is, in my opinion, a top 5 level linebacker. Number 4, I am going with Eric Kendricks. He's another guy who, his value is in a lot of ways how he covers. That's what he is. He's a coverage linebacker. Again, I would say that he's another one of these guys, just like everyone else I've mentioned, who are these coverage linebackers. He can stop the run, but I think that he covers. He might be the best coverage linebacker in the NFL. It's either him or the guy who I have at number 1 who plays for San Francisco. Spoiler alert. Kendricks is incredible. He's such a smart player. You can just tell when he's when he's in coverage. He always knows exactly what to do. So that's why I have him at 4 here on this list. Number 3, Lavonte David. I love me some Lavonte David. I'm even wearing my Buccaneers throwback hat right here. Lavonte David. Come on. Lavonte David's awesome, right? How can you have anything bad to say about Lavonte David? He covers just as well as anyone else on this list outside of maybe Eric Kendricks. He can play man coverage better than anyone on this list, period. I think he's the best man coverage linebacker in the league. The zone, there's a couple guys on this list who are better than him, one being Kendricks, but then also he stops the run better than anyone I've mentioned. So he's just that complete linebacker who can do it all. And that's why I have him ahead of kind of the other guys who seems like, Davis is also a complete linebacker, but he's not quite as good at that as David is. And I think everyone else kind of has a strength and not a weakness, but just, their strengths lean to one side a little bit more. Lavonte David can do both of those at an elite level. So that's why he's top 3. Number 2, Bobby Wagner, the guy who's actually got more MVP votes than Russell Wilson. He got an MVP vote that one year. I think an MVP vote is the thing that Tom Brady wrote on. No, vote. And Wagner is incredible. Last year, he didn't have his best season, I don't think, especially in coverage. But a big part of that, I would assume, is more so just with like the whole Seattle, turmoil that happened there. And I think that the Seattle cover 3 scheme is a bit outdated unless you have great players all around. And, their secondary had some issues. But he can stop the run. I think that his coverage he showed flashes of it. I think it's a scheme thing. So that's why I still have him at number 2. And his ability to stop the run still as good as ever. Again, when he's on, he's the best coverage linebacker in football and the best run defense linebacker in football, it seems. So he's number 2, but I do have one guy ahead of him. Number 1, Fred Warner. I think Fred Warner is incredible. I've talked about who's the best coverage linebacker in football. It's Fred Warner. It's Fred Warner. He's the best coverage linebacker in football. Other guys can do it really well. Other guys have had games that have been better than Fred Warner's had games, but he's the best in my opinion. And I do think that people will say his run defense isn't as good. Isn't as good. And I agree, he's not the best run defender in football at the linebacker position, but I think he's good. I think that he's a bit underrated at that. I think he's like very good actually at that. Maybe like an 8 out of 10 run defender with being a 14 out of 10 coverage guy. So that's why I have him at number 1. And again, I value coverage a little bit more than run defense, although I do like guys who can do both. And in my opinion, he can do both better than some of these other guys, and he can cover better than every other guy. So again, Wagner or David, you could also argue should be a number 1 because they're a bit more complete. I would say maybe even, Demario Davis, but I think that what he does well, he just does so much better than everyone else in the league. I really think that in zone coverage, he is just on another level from everyone else. And in man coverage, he can play man coverage well as well. He's right up there with Lavonte David as a really good man coverage linebacker. Doesn't do it as often, does play a lot of zone, but is really good at it. So that's my list. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.